Hello and welcome to Surveyor Says, the podcast from the National Society of Professional Surveyors. This week is our 100th episode and features information about the upcoming Survey and GIS Summit. We will hear from Linda Foster of NSPS and Brent Jones from URISA as they discuss an overview and details about the upcoming virtual conference being held November 3rd to the 5th. Thank you for joining us here on the podcast and hope you enjoy listening to this episode of Surveyor Says. And stay tuned after the interviews for more information on a special prize drawing commemorating our 100th episode. Thanks for listening. Hello and welcome to another episode of Surveyor Says. This is Tim Birch sitting in for Kurt Sumner. And well, I've been talking about trying to remember what episode we've been clicking along. Well, here's our long-awaited episode 100. And so with that, we thought we'd do something a little special. We've got something different coming up in the next few weeks. We are teaming with URISA and a couple of special guests here today to put on the Survey and GIS Summit. It'll be a virtual event. November 3rd through 5th. Go to surveygissummit.com for more information. NSPS and URISA members can attend for free, and so go check it out. But in the meantime, let's talk to our special guests today. We've got from South Dakota a PLS and a GIS, and she was our guest on episode 81, Linda Foster, and also from our good friends over at Esri, we got Mr. Brent Jones, who was episode 79, talking about some GIS stuff. So both of you, welcome. And I guess, Brent, this actually predates probably a lot of our listeners. Let's talk about where this all started. I mean, the Survey Summit back with Esri back in the day, 2003. Walk us through how this thing kind of started and why we need to evolve it back into the forefront.
Sure, Tim, and thanks for having me on and having us on. It started actually before my time at Esri, to tell you the truth. I started in Esri in 2005, so it even predates me. But it came out of a need for bringing together the surveying and the GIS community to collaborate and share stories and try to figure out what makes the relationship successful, where the tension is, get those tensions out on the table, and figure out how to work together and benefit both professions.
You bet. So, and actually, unfortunately, this is going to date me a little bit, that I actually attended the first Survey Summit in 2003 in San Diego with all the other GIS professionals out there. And, here's a guy from the Midwest, biggest conference he'd really ever been to with any kind of surveying was, maybe 1,000 people. And you get out there and there's 15,000 plus in the San Diego Convention Center. And even in 2003, it was amazing the amount of information that was out there. But it obviously, like I said, it didn't really catch on. I think, that was a lot of it had to do with the technology at the time. And let's be honest, surveyors didn't think that it was going to be that big of a deal. So they didn't quite pay attention to it.
Well, I attended ACSM in Baltimore. I think it was 1985. And maybe my memory that fails me, but I recall several thousand people there.
Sure.
And it was a time when we were bringing the technologies together, photogrammetry, and I think LiDAR was still a twinkle in our grandparents' eye at that point. But we were bringing the spatial technologies together, LIS, GIS, and surveying, photogrammetry. And I think we took a period of time there where we retreated into our camps and focused on business and focused on the day-to-day. And the technology now and the tools today are dropping into everybody's toolboxes, and it's giving us an opportunity to come back together.
Sure. Well, and Linda, that's why I think we'll throw it over to you now as both a PLS and a GIS professional. Why is it important, especially now, to at least get that conversation started again, getting the GIS and the the professional land surveying community back in the same room, talking like you said, what Brent was just saying about everything's dropping in the same toolbox. Why is that important that we start now?
Well, thank you, Tim. I appreciate you having us on here today. This is just an incredible opportunity. We're very excited to have this conference coming up and this opportunity to bring the two together again. And I think that's a great question. And Brent really touched on it there. The technology has emerged to a point that it really begins to start to make a lot more sense for the two to come back together, and I think really do some networking and understanding what it is that each of us do, what we bring to the table, how do we function, how do we operate, how is this coming together and merging more, if you will. And I guess I've seen that here throughout my career. I've been a bit of an anomaly. I've worked on both sides of the professions throughout most of my career, but it's had its foundation in AEC or in the engineering sector. So that really, I think we're seeing that all come together right now with the technological advances and capability that we're all in this together. We're all heading towards very common goals. And there are differences. And I think it's important that we get everyone together and talk about what's similar and talk about what's different and how we move together in the future as a team, really.
Right. No, those are great points. And I do agree that that we do need to start bringing these two communities together, because the similarities and actually, and for those who want to go back and listen to my, conversations with Brent and Linda separately about what is surveying and how GIS really lays it all together at this stage of the game. Those were both great conversations, and I appreciated you both doing that. And we got a lot of great feedback out of that, yes, now is the time to put things together and start this. So I guess, I'll go back to you for a second, Brent, because this kind of grew out of conversations that we've had over the past year, putting this, obviously we would love to have something, non-virtual. Everybody needs to get out of their cabin fever shells and get back out. But why, this makes sense to have something virtual to get this thing started. What do you see as some of the end goals of trying to have this conference virtually and basically laying the groundwork for the future?
That's a good question. If we take a look at the change that's taken place in the past, pick a number, 3, 5 years, 10 years. I've read estimates that the next 10 years is going to present more change to us than the previous 100. And if that's the case, we want to change and grow together. We don't want to grow onto different islands and different and isolate ourselves. I think there's an opportunity for surveyors with GIS technology to do a lot of new things, offer new services, and reach a whole new clientele. And on the GIS side, for GIS practitioners to understand what's happening we're 2 years away from a dynamic datum. Data is becoming more and more accurate. How do we properly handle that in information systems? So there's a real opportunity, I think, here to come together and grow together. The timing is really quite interesting because NGS hosts a nice geospatial summit generally in the spring. And in 2023 in Orlando, the International Federation of Surveyors, which internationally, the term surveying is a much broader definition, which includes all kinds of geospatial technologies. So that'll be, that warms us up to bringing the global community together on our home turf.
You got it. Yeah, exactly. I think it's really neat that we've put this together. The two organizations, URISA and NSPS, have basically, had a great experience putting this thing together. We've got a great website that lays a lot of things out. Linda, I guess from your perspective, how important was it to have good speakers? And I don't know if you can touch on a few of the speakers that we are going to have and the topics that are going to be presented, and why these, both the experience, the speaker experience and the topics are really crucial and timely for this conference.
No, I think that's great to point out here, Tim, because we were very thoughtful in how we organized and designed the program for this, bringing back of the Survey and GIS Summit, if you will. And we have some just absolutely phenomenal speakers lined up, and they are veterans in the field, I would say, or in the professions. Several who have worked most of their careers, if you will, in a hybrid fashion in both sides. They've been very influential in the land surveying communities and also in the GIS communities and geospatial communities. And I think they've got some very, very good insight for both of our attendee groups to hear their experiences and share their vision. I think it's just very timely, as you touched on. And one thing that we wanted to do also is introduce each group to areas that perhaps they don't get exposure to on a regular basis. Maybe some new opportunities for the folks in the surveying community, new business opportunities, new things that they can explore and grow their businesses and learn about what's happening on the GIS and geospatial side of things, and in turn, introduce the GIS and geospatial practitioners to what it is the land surveying community is up to. And, as Brent mentioned, or Tim mentioned too, with the initiatives with the NGS here and the new datums coming, these are all critical topics that are absolutely rooted in everything both communities work on a daily basis and get exposed to. And so we wanted to bring a blend of topics, a blend of exposure, and just really make it a collaborative event and really get people thinking about what's going on out there right now. What are those opportunities? What's coming? As Brent mentioned, I think he summed it up in saying, if the next 10 years has more change in store than the last 100, wow, we should all take note of that comment right there, because I think that really does sum up what's in store for us here. And so this is a great way to prime the pump, to get folks at the table and engaged and introduced to, what's coming. What's it going to look like here in the next 5-10 years? Exactly.
Well, I'm looking at the list of, like you said, of speakers, and you're right. It is a lot of great topics and a lot of great speakers. A keynote by Nancy von Meyer, who is a phenomenal. I think she's a phenomenal speaker and just a great source of a lot of information. I'm really looking forward to hearing from her. And Dr. Van Sickle, I think it's going to be, those are a couple of good keynotes that I think people are going to really have some good takeaways from.
I'll tell you, Tim, I've put together conferences in the past, and it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on a call with Linda and a couple other, I guess I would call them committee members, for lack of a better word, in starting up a conference or restarting a conference. And it was surprisingly easy to get extremely good content. And we actually had to extend one of the days because there was a pretty meaningful session that we wanted to jam in there. And we could have made this easily 3 8-hour days, but nobody wants to sit at their desk, for 3 days straight. So we tried to lop a few hours in a couple of days and then pop in a few workshops.
Right. No, like I said, it is a quality lineup. It's timely and just very, very good topics to be talking about these things. And I guess speaking of committee, I'd be amiss without saying our committee chair for the NSPS side, NSPS Vice President Amanda Allred, she was tied up this week and couldn't be here, but I think leading part of that charge from the NSPS side, and Brent and between you and the URISA people and then our NSPS staff, I agree. I think it was, I was just overwhelmed when I first saw this lineup and thought, wow, they've really went out and really beat the bushes hard for these. But it sounds like people were really on board to want to do this. So Linda, let's talk about something, really, I guess, from your perspective as well. What do you want to see come out of this in the end? What at the end of these 3 days, what should, putting your GIS hat on, what should you come away with it as a GIS person, and what should you come away with it as a land surveyor as well?
I think in both instances, my biggest hope out of this conference is that each group will come away with something new, at least one thing new that that'll be an aha moment. That'll be a, wow, that's really cool. Or I had never thought about it that way. Or I want to go explore this a little bit further and see if I can bring it back to my organization. Or I'm hoping that it will elicit some excitement, light that fire in the belly, if you will, and really provoke some excitement, and also just a great healthy dialogue between the two groups. Meet some new friends, make some new connections, if you will, in the different communities, and really open up and learn about what it is each group brings and what we do on a daily basis. There's no better way to learn about the unknown than to talk with folks that work in it, and I think that will be a great opportunity. And one thing I don't think that's been mentioned just yet is that both organizations, NSPS and URISA, have fantastic programs for their young professionals. I don't think that can be highlighted too much. Both groups are doing a wonderful job, and the young are our future, as we all know. And we've programmed in some time for each of those groups to come together and network as well, and talk to us about what they're doing. What are the young folks in the profession up to, because they're busy and they're up to some fantastic things. And so I'm excited to just see what's happening in that space as well.
That's, and thank you for a lot of it's answering was going to be my next question was, who is this really targeted to? And I think you hit it on the head right there, is the young professionals as well, with the Young Professionals Network from Esri and the Vanguard Cabinet from URISA and the Young Surveyors Network from NSPS. It's, yes, to be able to set aside time for networking online, but yet being able to interact with your peers, even if if it's in a similar situation. That was some good foresight on putting this schedule together, because you're right, that is our future. And what I'll say to all three organizations with NSPS, Esri, and URISA having these groups put together and putting them even more together, I think is a great opportunity as well, because I think that's part of where we will break down those barriers, or with some of the younger professionals that see the value in having all of this data, all of this experience, all of this knowledge base together. So no, that's a great point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. And I guess part of also getting all of this together, I would also be remiss when we talk about URISA and NSPS staff. We got to give a shout out to Wendy Nelson and to Trish Milburn for all of the behind the scenes work with the websites, with the registration, and also John Hohall for reaching out there and getting out the word on this summit and getting sponsors, because that's the last thing I wanted to wrap up with, as far as the summit in particular was, once again, for URISA and NSPS members, it's free. For government employees, it's free. And for event sponsors, anybody that's involved with the sponsors, it's free. Otherwise, 3 days, $25. That's just going to help cover our costs. Bottom line, it was trying to get this information out to the members, out to the professionals, and the hopefully soon to be professionals. So I think this is a great opportunity to get this all together. Trying to be cognizant of both your times. I think I can say with pretty much certainty that Linda's in the private sector, so she's very, very busy. Brent's just Brent. He's always busy. He's always got his hand in something. So Linda, how about some final thoughts on what this survey summit, survey and GIS summit means to you, and how you think it's going to come out?
I'm just thrilled to be a part of this. It's been a pleasure working on the committee. I'll echo Brent's thoughts. This was a fun group to work with, and it made planning this event just a pleasure. And I guess my final thoughts at the end of the day on bringing the surveying and GIS communities together is maybe some sobering thoughts, and that is our built world is accelerating. Our resources are becoming more and more challenged, and it takes both communities to continue to take care of our world and keep it thriving and keep it going for the future generations. And I hope that some of the topics we've brought to this conference will help both parties realize that it takes all of us and then some to continue to do the work that we do and continue to, really practice, and at the end of the day, take care of our world. And so that I would leave that thought, I guess. Brent, I'm not sure what your thoughts are there.
Geez, that's pretty hard to top those thoughts, because I think you're right. You're right on top of it. What I would say is that things are changing. They're changing rapidly, and these tools are merging. They're not just showing up in everyone's toolboxes, but you don't have to think back too long when we measured angles and distances separately. Now we have scans and LiDAR and imagery all in the same machine. So these tools are merging, and those merged sets of tools are showing up in everybody's tools boxes, allowing all of us to grow our services. And I guess what I would say is, attend, sit back, and just think and ponder and try to pull away from the day-to-day of doing your work and listen to some of the speakers about how they're using a combination of these technologies to deliver new services and try to work contributing to solving the problems that Linda mentions. And as we collect this data, this built environment, it's going to be integrated into much larger systems, and there'll be less standalone projects where the data sits in a CAD file or on a shelf.
Exactly. Well, yeah, there's no way to top both what you both just said there, because that is the end goal, and I think this is definitely a big positive step in the right direction for both professions, being able to tie some of these things together. And I guess I'd like to end it on this, that Brent, a big thank you to you, because it was your conversations with you and your vision of bringing this thing back together. You see it from a unique perspective with your role with Esri, that it'd be one thing to just say, you know what, we need to stick with the GIS and really push more survey stuff into GIS. But your unique perspective, especially as a land surveyor as well, sees the value in bringing it all together, and your persistence on wanting to get this thing together. I applaud you for pushing along as well as you have, and I appreciate Linda jumping in and helping this as well. And I'm looking forward to a very, very successful conference. I think it's going to be a great opportunity. So I guess with that, we'll end at that. We'll try to be, like I said, let everybody get back to their paying jobs. And but once again, the dates for the the Surveying and GIS Summit, and that is at surveygissummit.com. Those dates are November 3rd through the 5th. A lot of great speakers, a lot of great topics, and it's affordable. So take some time, make sure that you set aside some time to check out as many sessions as you can. And with that, this is Tim Birch for Surveyor Says. This is episode 100, so stay tuned for an announcement on some prize packages that you'll have to answer some questions and get them over to Trish, but we'll get you some questions here shortly. But thank you both for taking some time today, and look forward to seeing you both at the conference.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
You've been listening to the 100th episode of Surveyor Says, the podcast, brought to you by the National Society of Professional Surveyors. We appreciate you spending your time with us each week as we bring guests from around the nation, world, and different geospatial perspectives to your podcast app. To help celebrate our 100th episode, answer this survey question and send it to us to be placed in a drawing for some cool gift packages. How many links are in a standard Gunter's chain? Send us your answers to info@nsps.us.com to enter the contest. We would also like to take a moment to thank our sustaining members for their support on all of our association activities. Airworks, Association Risk Management, Bernstein International, Carlson Software, Dell Computers and Technologies, Emlid GNSS, Juno Jones, Krylon Industrial, NCEES, SAM LLC, Spaceco Engineering and Surveying, Schonstadt Instrument Company, Subsurface Instruments, ServCap LLC, That Cat Girl, Trimble Geospatial, Victor Insurance, the American Surveyor Magazine, and XYHT Magazine. Visit our website, nsps.us.com, to learn more about our sustaining members, our association, and the programs we administer and support, and information about future episodes of Surveyor Says. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, as well as your favorite podcast hosts and ours too, Podbean. And remember, it's a great day to be a surveyor.